It's Wednesday, August 15th, 2012. I'm Rim.
I'm Posy McPoserson.
And this is Geeknights. It sounded like you were yawning, so I was kind of backing off to give you time to finish yawning. Tonight we're talking about the ranks of the Black Order.
And yawning. Let's do this.
So how many of you are yawning right the fuck now? Kids? If you weren't, now you are. But yeah, it's kind of how we want to do the shows quickly now for the next year or two, because as of a couple days ago, CounterStrike Go is in open beta. And I pretty much play it every day when I get home from work.
I'm playing it once I get home from the show.
I was playing it when Scott arrived. Normally, Scott beats me to my own house for Geeknights. But today, he comes home, and I've already been playing CounterStrike for a while.
Why wouldn't you be?
It's, it's too many games I've waited for forever. And they finally come out, and they're not what I wanted. CounterStrike Go is exactly what I wanted.
It's Counter-Strike, polished to be more modern and shit. And it's still Counter-Strike.
Oh my gosh.
That's all there is to it.
But it's Wednesday, not Tuesday. You don't care about that stuff because clearly you only listen to anime and read comics. Possibly manga.
Wow, listening to anime, you blind?
Well, it depends. Anyway. So, well, I guess listening to the anime episodes.
Sure.
It is listeners here. Well, listener at least. But there is actually some big convention news that many of you might not have noticed. So every year...
It's not actually convention news specifically, but it does affect...
I was going to make that point. But if you ask the average person who knows about comics, and this is, I think, why the thing we're about to talk about happened, what MOCCA is, their response will invariably be that convention with the indie comics, not that museum. And thus the problem. The MOCCA is the Museum of Comic and Cartoon Arts in New York City. I've never actually been to anything that they've ever done or to their actual building other than when I go to the MOCCA festival every year.
Well, I mean, I was a member of the museum for like a couple of years.
I was a member twice. I never once used any perk.
I knew...
And in fact, when I went to the MOCCA festival, I'd already lost my card, so I paid full price for the badge anyway.
You could just tell them your name and stuff. I was aware that they were a museum and had a museum location, and I was aware of events held at that location. But the thing is, that location the museum was in, because they had so little monies, was very hidden. There wasn't even any way to tell where it was from the street. There was no sign. There was no nothing. You had to know where it was to get in there. It was upstairs in a place. So it's like hardly anyone went there. Usually, if a museum had like some street presence, you'd get foot traffic and you can get monies. But not being so hard to find, I guarantee that they even probably lost money of people trying to find it and not finding it and giving up.
Now, meanwhile, the MOCCA Festival, which is what most people know MOCCA as, is actually one of my favorite convention/festival/events every year. It's right up there with PAX, MagFest, everything we do.
But it was also the primary fundraiser for the MOCCA, pretty much the only fundraiser for the museum, right? So what they would do is they'd hold this festival. The festival would pay for itself and pay for a year of expenses for the museum. And because the museum was paying crazy rent on this place that nobody could see, they had to keep raising the price, not of entrance to the MOCCA festival, but for tables at the festival.
Granted, they could probably double the price and still fill.
Maybe, but they kept jacking up that price year after year, and people did complain because they're poor, like SVA college students or whatever, and whatnot. So the museum had money troubles.
Yep, but I think the primary trouble is simply that due to, the factors you talked about and just in general, nerds know about conventions and people will travel for events like this. But museums that aren't big, sort of like municipal, like very well-known museums, generally don't get a lot of traffic.
I mean, if, some of them do, like look at Museum of Sex, for example, right?
Yeah, well, that's sex.
I'm just saying, but, it had street presence.
Maybe if it was the...
and it had money for marketing.
Museum of Comic and Cartoon Sexual Arts, it would have had a lot more...
The Museum of Sex had marketing, and it also had street presence, which gets people in the door.
Yeah, I remember seeing ads that were like, Museum of Sex.
Right. The MOCCA...
And the Museum of Sex, pretty great.
Yeah, it didn't have the money or the location to do that. So the only people who go to it pretty much are people going to it for like an event who know about it, who are already in the know, insiders. You don't get, this any spread whatsoever. Or people might like, know about it, like super comics fans know about it, visit New York and spend, an hour or two going to it. But people in the industry, obviously.
Now, they had events and all these other things, but they just were never really on my radar compared to other stuff I did. But the long and short of it is that the Museum of Comic and Cartoon Arts ran out of money.
Yeah.
So what
They
happened,
even had to sell a few arts to pay some bills.
So they have effectively, and I'm not going to go through all the gritty details of what happened, but they have transferred all of their assets to the Society of Illustrators.
Yeah, so on the one hand, some people are upset because they're like, oh, now you're sort of, in a way saying that comics is a subset of the greater art of illustration.
But it is.
Not really. It's also writing. Illustration doesn't involve writing.
Yeah, but part of an aspect of comics is a subset. I mean, anime is a subset of animation, but yet there's writers and producers and all these people.
Right, but comics is not a subset of illustration. I mean, there is illustration involved in the making of comics, but it is not that's
a portion of its set is a subset of illustration, but another portion of it is a subset of other things.
Right, that'd be like saying that's like saying anime is a subset of music. It's like, no, it's not.
But anime is a subset of, for example, art, and aspects of anime are a subset of
every
music.
art is a subset of art.
So the problem is the inheritance structure of the sets is actually multi-tiered and complex.
Anyway, but symbolically, people don't like that, but otherwise, this really isn't so bad, right? The Society of Illustrators actually has real space.
Plus, I would say this.
Lots of money.
If you were choosing between having MOCCA be owned and be considered a subset of the Society of Illustrators or the Society of Writers, it's pretty much 50-50.
Right, but it's like you wouldn't want to have it. It's better than like someone privately buying it or who knows what.
See, I think it's a silly concern because the Society of Illustrators is an ancient nonprofit dedicated it's basically a lot like the MOCCA, but it's more of a outreach group.
Yep.
And they actually have a really good space that the MOCCA is going to move into.
Well, I mean, the MOCCA isn't moving into it, right? Basically, there is no MOCCA. It's just the Society of Illustrators owns all the things that belong to MOCCA.
Well, no, from what I'm reading,
including its name,
which includes the name. So the MOCCA as a thing is
just a trademark that is now the property of the Society.
Yes, and all the collected works, and as far as I can tell, all the people who worked for it.
Yeah, all two people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as a result, the MOCCA Festival is also going to be a part of it.
Yeah, so, they didn't give a lot of details on what's going to happen with the festival, but basically, it looks good and it also looks not the good, right? The good is that Society of Illustrators has money from other things. It's not like the MOCCA, which is getting all its money from this festival. So, they could just run the MOCCA Festival as a regular fundraiser, and since it won't be their only fundraiser for the Society of Illustrators, they don't need to jack up the prices on the tables and stuff, and they could just run it and make a regular amount of money off it, and it'll be no problem. On the other hand, the MOCCA Festival was not inexpensive to run. It's not like this cheap thing, like, oh, it's easy to do. So we'll see what exactly they decide to do with it. I highly doubt that they will kill it, though they may change things.
Well, we'll see what they would change, because if it is not primarily a comic, like indie sort of underground or, basically non-superhero standard DC Marvel Comic Fest, I probably wouldn't bother going because...
No, but if you think about it, right, the MOCCA Festival on its own, right, was paying for a museum for a whole year and also for itself. If they kill it or something happens to it and it dies out,
a new one will start immediately.
Anyone can just start the festival as its own organization who has the contacts with all of those people, and just start a new MOCCA Festival, call it something else, but say, hey guys, psst, psst, this is the MOCCA Festival. But it's only got to pay for itself. That's it. It doesn't have to pay for anything else. So these are what the prices are going to be. Let's do it.
Now it seems like things are going to be fine because the Society of Illustrators said straight up that their goal is to continue to stage the MOCCA Fest in its current location.
Nice.
Dedicate a gallery in their own building to MOCCA's permanent collection.
Making that your goal doesn't mean you're going to do it. Just because my goal is to make the Concorde flag.
Well, Scott,
it's not going to happen.
All corporate things are goals because you can't actually promise anything.
I can promise something.
And you might not do it.
I can promise Geeknights episodes. There will be more of them.
Warranty?
At least one.
You want a warranty? I'll slap a warranty. You can ship your head up a bull's ass.
I promise I will not die before the next Geeknights episode. This episode being the next one, since I've heard
All right,
it.
well, tell me how the view is from that bull's ass.
Yeah.
Anyway, and a bunch of other things, and MOCCA memberships will be honored by the Society of Illustrators, whatever that means.
Does that mean I'm a Society of Illustrators member?
I guess.
Okay. Does that get me more benefits?
I have no idea. I don't do much with the Society of Illustrators either.
Okay.
But it'll be interesting to see what happens to the festival, because I realize that if I look at every convention I have ever attended in my entire life, I have spent more money in any one MOCCA Fest on goods from the convention than I have spent at probably every other convention I've ever attended combined.
Yeah.
And that's not just a factor of me having more money now, because I still
It's
go
a factor
to
of
AnimeCons.
free badges.
So we'll see what happens with this. I don't think it's going to be a big drama fest, because the amount of internet freak out about it has been very low, and the few I guess complaints or the things Scott raised seem to be raised in a relatively erudite and sort of let's discuss this, what do you think will happen fashion, as opposed to the fanboy outrage that happened when New York Comic Con said they were killing the New York Anime Festival, where the response was, they're trying to sabotage anime, or they're trying to drive us furries out of the convention.
No, real answer. You don't make them any fucking money, so why do they want to pay money to rent a space in the Javits to put you in separately when that doesn't give them any benefit financially whatsoever?
Yep. I love how the New York Anime Festival announcement, when that happened, they basically did everything possible to not say that they were killing it because it doesn't make money. They're like, good news, everybody. We're merging the New York Anime Festival into the Comic-Con. We're not going to use that name anymore. It's going to be an integral part of the New York Comic-Con.
Yeah.
Which is code for, there's no more New York Anime Festival. But anyway, things of the day. What do you got for me?
Oh, so, Alfred Hitchcock, he's pretty awesome.
He's pretty great. I've seen a lot of his movies.
Yeah, I was actually, who were we talking to recently that hadn't seen Rear Window or something?
Yeah,
and
or Rebecca.
And I was going to stab myself in the head. I was like, whoa, anyway, so yeah, if you haven't seen those, see them or stab yourself.
There's probably a torrent of everything Hitchcock ever did, but even if you want to go legit, we bought many years ago this DVD box set that was 20 Alfred Hitchcock movies for $5.
Yep. Anyway, so if you don't know, in most of his movies, Alfred Hitchcock himself, and the TV show would, make a cameo. He wouldn't make a cameo have speaking lines. He would basically be an extra in his own thing.
Try to get on a bus, answer a phone.
Walking around in the background, standing in a crowd, hiding in a window, doing all kinds of stuff. Big office full of people. He's one of the guys in the office, stuff like that. He just be in the movie on screen somewhere, which is why, he is a recognizable person.
Now, for anyone else.
Also because he introed his TV show, right?
Yes, that. Think about how many kids today will watch a show.
And the line drawing of.
No, I'm saying how many kids today will watch a show like Family Guy or The Simpsons, and something will parody that Hitchcock Presents opening.
They don't know what the hell that is.
They'll think that that's a joke for The Simpsons as opposed to a reference to something older.
Or even, all right. But it's a lot of people who work not, behind the scenes on things, even famous directors, people might know their names. Their names might be incredibly famous, but you still won't know what they look like, right? But Hitchcock, people know what he looks like. Anyway.
At least old people.
Yeah, anyway. Well, people who know who he is know what he looks like.
Now, your thing of the day is partly more notable than it would be if it were anyone else, because of the sheer number of works that Hitchcock has done.
I know. You start watching this thing, and it's the very first movies that you see in this thing are from the 20s, and they go all the way up to 60s, 70s, right? It's kind of crazy. Anyway, but yeah, this is every Hitchcock cameo in a movie, his own movie. It's pretty epic. It's only 4 minutes long because the cameos are very short. But you should watch this and all the movies.
When I was very, very young, I would pretty much, like, Alfred Hitchcock Presents was like a staple of my extremely young childhood.
Yeah.
So, speaking of movies, there's all these sort of mashups or supercuts of movies, Tom Hanks peeing in movies or whatever.
That's Rim's favorite.
Yeah, specifically that one. But this one in particular gets a lot of points, my thing of the day, because of the sheer breadth of movies from which it drew its sources. And it works particularly well because the way the lyrics are presented in Baby Got Back, it's more spoken word than singing. So it actually sounds a lot like the original song in many places. This is just very well done. It is Baby Got Back, sung by a couple hundred movies.
I like how they even sometimes creatively connect the clips. Like, I saw one part, I forget what the lyric was, but it showed John Travolta, I think, Pulp Fiction, and it cut to John Travolta, Saturday Night Fever.
Yeah.
Right? To combine to say one line.
A lot of love went into this thing.
Yeah, that takes hard work to specifically not just find people saying all the words, but to go for the, that element as well. Pushes this one above the rest of the pack.
So, in the meta moment, we are going to be at the Penny Arcade Expo Prime and the Penny Arcade Expo Dev doing three events. Short subjects in gaming, academia versus reality, and the Geeknights tabletop workshop. Now, I learned something disturbing.
We should probably finish working on those.
I've been working hard on 2/3 of one of them and on the fullness of another one of them. But anyway, the thing you need to know is that if you want to go to the Geeknights tabletop workshop, all of the tabletop content is in the Red Lion, which is a hotel nearby, because PAX long ago outgrew pretty much every venue in tiny Seattle.
Wait, didn't the schedule say like room 302 or something?
Yeah.
That sounds like the room that it was in last year.
Yeah, but supposedly the Red Lion has a lot of this content, so we're going to see where it actually is.
We're going to see exactly where it is. So,
but more important,
ask tabletop people, enforcers,
No,
where it is.
Here's the more important
at
part.
The con.
You have to sign up for this ahead of time because the number of seats is limited. And if PAX East was any indication, this thing is going to be completely full.
I have a feeling, though, people won't actually sign up and that it'll just be first come, first serve at the door for the empty seats.
I'm pretty
and maybe
sure
2 people will sign up.
I'm pretty sure people will sign up based on what I've learned from how the sign-ups are going to work. Mm-hmm. Tabletop stuff does not have a lot of seats. This has like 40 less seats than the room we did this in at PAX East. Right. And at PAX East, we turned a lot of people away.
Yeah, but at PAX Prime last year, it was like no vibe.
Yeah, because PAX Prime, it wasn't even in the goddamn book. It was an experiment in a tiny room.
Is this going to be in the book?
Yeah, this is legit.
Okay.
Like in PAX East, it was in the book, so it filled up.
No, PAX East, I didn't think it was in the book at all.
It was in the schedule and in the whatever. I don't know if I think the description was in the book.
I don't remember.
But the
anyway.
time wasn't, but the location was.
Whatever.
Anyway,
I want to add something. We always talk about all the different places on the internet that you can find us and join us and follow us and read us and get our info and all that business, right? There's one place that we really haven't mentioned in years, and with the release of CSGO, I want to mention it. There's an official Geeknights Steam group. It's wicked old, but it's still there, and if you want to play games on Steam with other listeners, it's just a public group. You can just fucking join.
Yeah, guys, do you know how many times I've played TF2 with just like
people are always
20 of you in the forum?
People are always trying to friend me on Steam. It's like, if I don't know you, I'm not friending you. And actually, I should go through, because I used to just friend everyone on Steam. I should go through and delete all the people who aren't actually friends from friends. But it's like, if you're just some listener, join the Geeknights Steam group, and we can play games together anyway. You don't need to actually be friends, So you should join that shit up.
We're just intellectual whores.
And if you're not on Steam, seriously, what the fuck? Even if you have a Mac, you can at least get Steam and Portal, I guess.
In this day and age, Steam is obligatory.
Right. If you don't have Steam installed on your computer, then why are you listening to this show?
Book Club Book is The Man Who Was Thursday, and we have a ton of videos. I finally uploaded, just about 6 months after PAX East, a highlights reel from PAX East 2012.
Yeah, I just sent out the newsletter again today, and I had to link to like 5 or 6 new YouTube videos we've made since the last newsletter.
Yep, I got a new pony mashup. I got a bunch of stuff.
So,
in fact, we got a new one of our lectures up from PAX East 2012.
A lot more videos going out.
Yeah. I think that's it. We should get into the main bit, which is another Timo comic. Because as you know, our dear friend Timo, particle physicist, all-around cool
many
dude.
years ago, he sent us a box of comics from Finland and Europe.
And we were going to read them and give him back and send him a care package in return. So,
But we took many years to do this.
because we're bums.
That's right. I haven't even read comics I've paid for. How am I going to read comics someone else gave me?
The thing is, some of the comics he gave us are hard to get and pretty damn good.
Yep.
So what we're reviewing tonight is a comic called The Ranks of the Black Order, though you may find it under a ridiculous number of other names, ranging from the Black Order Brigade
Not too bad a name, but still wrong.
to Le Phalanges de Noir.
The correct name.
Oh, what was it? It was like Chaos something?
The Chaos Theory or something?
Yeah, I found some weird titles for this comic.
Yeah.
But if you don't listen to the rest of this, we're not going to spoil anything, but The Ranks of the Black Order is a fantastic comic. It's just one book, and an entire story is told within it from start to finish. It's brutal, it's sad, depressing, almost inspirational, but it's inspirational in that kind of oppositely inspirational way.
Well, you really liked it, huh?
I actually did really like
I
it.
just thought it was kind of okay.
I think the reason I really liked it is that it reminded me of Jason and Hemingway.
Jason as in Jason Chainsaw Axe murdering coming out of the lake, Jason?
Yeah, of course. The scene where the guy comes out of the lake and clearly
Hockey mask Jason?
Jason, who is known by no other name, who makes comics filled
that
with
Jason.
comics filled with melancholy that make you go when you read them.
That definitely. I think.
Have you reacted to any Jason comic ever after reading the last panel, but for going?
But that aspect of the Jason, I think, is actually more of a common aspect of many European comics.
I think it is.
So, of
But
course,
this
this
one-
also being a European comic, what's it? But Bilal did this one, right?
Bilal and Kristen.
Yes.
I think Bilal did the writing. No,
think
Kristen did the writing.
Bilal
did
is
the
the artist.
Yes.
Bilal is an incredibly famous artist. What are you talking about? But yeah, speaking of incredibly famous artist, of course, it's Bilal. So you know why he's incredibly famous? Because he's incredibly good.
It's a really sort of gritty, washed out, almost watercolor looking style with really like thin black lines.
Yeah.
I really like that.
It's pretty amazing. But yeah, I wasn't that tied up in it. I only read this mere weeks ago, and already
Wow, I read this like a year ago.
Yeah,
and I remember it starkly.
Yeah, I remember it kinda. Because it shows how much of an impression it made on me.
All right, Scott, how many characters from the Incal can you name? Because you just read that too.
Okay, the main guy is John DeFool.
All right.
You can't forget that name.
Yep.
Right. There's the gray bird thingy, which name is I forget.
All right.
You can't forget Meta Baron. That's an amazing name. Total badass dude. There's Meta Baron's son, which is yellow hair, greatest American hero, Fro Kid. The Incal is sort of a character. There's Animal Girl. I forget Nature Girl. I forget her name.
All right, you're doing okay.
Her sister. I forget her name.
Oh, what was it? I'll probably remember halfway through the show, but I'll say it now. I was reading a
The president
comic.
guy. I forget his name.
I was reading a comic that I read before, again, not that long ago, and I was like desperately reminded of the Incal, and I got to find out if the person who wrote this more recent comic was inspired by the Incal.
What's the more recent comic?
I forgot. That's why I said I'm going to remember.
You're not
halfway through
helping
the
me
show,
here at all.
And I'm going to go, oh shit, this. But anyway.
Okay.
So the Ranks of the Black Order, I think the reason I like it so much and why I'm kind of hyping it a little bit is that any comic that tells a story from start to finish with no sequels, no prequels, no greater universe, and also simultaneously is serious and good, gets kind of like a plus 20 to the role of Will Rim Like It over any other comic.
It's like half the comics I own.
I know.
It seems like you haven't read that many comics that fit that category.
I have, and all of them on the show, I'm like, it was great.
But there are many of them.
It was so great.
Okay.
So what this is about, to put it very simply, is the Spanish Civil War sucked.
No.
Like, it was
a war that sucked? What is that good for?
Hey, what about those old, like, kind of fun-sounding Greek wars where they'd kind of fight, mercenaries would fight,
The
and
real
try not to
ones
kill
or the
each other.
mythological ones?
The semi-real ones, but it was
Semi-real? Completely real? Or
well,
complete-
as in, like, two mercenary armies would fight, but the mercenaries were kind of friends with each other and would try not to kill each other, and they'd sort of declare a winner.
Uh-huh.
It's more like a game.
You mean fencing?
No.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Right.
But, so yeah, the Spanish Civil War was particularly shitty because, one, it kind of happened with this backdrop of the world between World War I and World War II, and during World War II, and the aftermath of World War II. And two, it was pretty much two groups fighting mostly for the wrong reasons. It was, to paraphrase history, communists, anarchists, and Republicans in a loose alliance fighting against fascists, nationalists, and people who just wanted everything to be calm.
Wasn't the Spanish monarchy still around then, too?
Yes,
Yeah.
and there was a military coup, and Franco, and do you know a lot about Spain?
Most of my Spanish history knowledge is of Inquisition days. But pretty much what I know about the Spanish Civil War
So
is...
the Reconquista.
Yes. Also, I am well aware of issues in the Basque Country.
So the Spanish Civil War ending basically meant open warfare stopped, but grudges were maintained and villages were destroyed. Spain had its own army shelling its own cities at many points.
Mm-hmm.
It's a shitty war. And this story takes place long after the Spanish Civil War is over, and a lot of the people who fought in it are old men and women. So it opens with a bunch of these old men coming into a small Basque village in the middle of nowhere in the middle of winter, systematically murdering every man, woman, and child in the town and burning it down.
Whenever there's one of those villages in the middle of nowhere, I'm somehow reminded, I don't know why, of that Lupin movie where there's the village with all the treasures in the middle of nowhere that's empty.
Yeah, I am too. Huh. Could watch that Lupin again. I've got it.
Which one was it?
Fuck if I remember, but I've got it.
Yeah, which one?
You know, this is totally an aside, but now that I've got that torrent of every Lupin ever, I was looking through the name. Like, I think, like, out of the blue, how many Lupin movies...
Which is the one where Zenigata loses his job
Fuck
and he's
if
eating
I remember.
ramen?
But if I try to think, like, how many discrete Lupin movies have I seen? I'm like, I don't know, 6 or 7. But then I look at this list, I'm like,
seen
oh, I've
most
seen
of them.
that, seen that, seen that, seen that.
Yep.
But anyway, so the other old men who find out about this, who also, fought in this day, band together. And so it's basically two Blues Brothers situations. Two groups get the band back together to sort of reenact the Spanish Civil War long after the Spanish Civil War was done and long after all of them were in any shape to be going about this sort of business.
Right. Well, it's basically, two different rival groups fought back in the day, but then the war ended, so they all went home. But then one of them got the band back together and started killing people. The other group found out about it, so they had to get their band back together to counteract the band that already got back together.
But it has this sort of undertone that they're not the main characters, the so-called good guys who were Republican, anarchist, communist fighters fighting for the Republic during the Spanish Civil War. They don't really say they're fighting to save lives or to stop the plot by the other old men. They're really fighting just because that's what you do.
Yep.
I mean, those guys are fighting again, so what can we do but stop them?
Yeah, who else is going to stop them?
It's basically
it's like who can they go to tell anyone about them? It's like they can't just go and say, "Hey, military, stop those guys." It's like,
well, in the modern,
they know those guys more than anyone else.
True, but
they know who it was. They can't really prove who it was, but they know 100%.
Yes, but in this world, they could have informed the police, and there was a much more modern framework of justice.
Yes, but
remember there's a scene where
they would themselves be in trouble uncovering their own things.
Those things are so far in the past that it wouldn't have mattered nearly so much, I think. They're all respectable people in the modern era.
Yes, while they're respectable, though, it's one of those typical situations where you had a life of horrible danger, who knows what, and then it ended and you went to a normal life, but really, that normal life, you never really wanted that normal life.
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm saying, that they could have responded to this in a very different way.
Common story.
But rather than saying, we're the only ones who can do it, we got to save these people, their response was basically,
stop those fuckers. Those are our rivals. We must beat them.
And it was a story of these people falling back into the roles that they fell into during the First War, and it sort of puts the futility and just absolute pointless waste of human life that the first Spanish Civil War was against this sort of second shadow war of old men fighting against shadows of other old men. And it's pretty much just brutal and depressing all the way to the end.
Yeah, the thing I like about it the most is how they never, forget at all that these are really old people, right? Like they're way old, 60, 70.
I mean, they try to get away on some bikes at one point, and
like,
one
they can't pedal.
do it.
It's
Guys
like,
die of heart attacks,
right?
And aneurysms.
Yep. It's like, one guy's got like diseased all the time.
Granted, some of them, like the guy who jumps into the water, he was doing pretty well.
Well, I think he was a little younger too, right?
Dude with the machine gun, I like too.
Yeah, but it's like they were in had varying ranges of physical fitness, just like old people are. This is a dude I see freaking almost every morning. He looks like fucking James Randi. He's so old. He's just freaking running down Second Avenue,
dude, Scott,
like
I
marathon
go skiing,
man.
And I'll see dudes who are easily more than 80 years old skiing faster and better than I am on much harder trails than I could ever even dream of attempting.
Right, but I mean, it isn't more of skiing like skill and muscle memory than it would be, say, strength. And not that you don't need strength.
Yeah, but there is strength involved.
But I mean, practicing would help more, right? But running's just straight up running around the city. This dude
there is evidence that humans are primed to be able to run for the entirety of their lives.
That's good.
Yeah.
But I mean, a lot of old people can't even fucking walk, so that's still badass. Anyway, it never forgets that these guys are old and they're constantly suffering old people things all the time.
So it's like a scene of action that's kind of sad and oldie on both sides, and then a scene of them having to recover from the action.
Yeah, it's like, what would it be like if old geezers are really chasing each other? What would it be like if old geezers are really shooting at each other? But it's not chasing each other like, get back here, Shardy. It's like, no, they're actually chasing each other, but both sides are old guys and they both have guns or motorcycles or whatever they've got, but they're all old and they can't go so fast. And there aren't really any young people involved to just come and hose them all down, so it's, it makes you think, and at the one hand, it's got that side plot of making you, think about seniordom in your future.
Yep. But
if you make it that far.
The only complaint I guess I could have about this entire story is that the moral at the end and the way it's presented and the message trying to get through was a really good message, except that the guys that these guys are trying to stop are clearly bad guys.
Yes.
And the guys that tried to stop them, while the conflict in the Spanish Civil War, from a zoomed out perspective was pretty pointless and a waste of life, the direct conflict here, while it could have been handled better, was straight up a good thing to do. If they truly believe that no one
could
else
have done
can
it a
stop these
different
guys,
way,
yes.
but it was still a good thing to do.
Yeah, they're straight up good guys, and it's not a bad. If you're an old man, it's not a bad way to go, dying to save a whole bunch of lives.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, usually you would expect there'd be some sort of ambiguity, like, two groups of old guys come up to fight again years later, and the story, whatever, whether it's a movie or a TV show, focuses on one of those groups, so identify with that group, and that group becomes the, quote, good guys. But in reality, at the end, the message is like, oh, look, both of these sides were the same. We just had the camera on one of them, so you thought that one was the good one, but really, they were identical and just had opposing viewpoints. But no, the friggin' beginning of the book is the first group that got the band back together freaking murders a town of people. They're crazy, evil terrorists who go around murdering. They are bad guys, regardless of whether you agree with one political ideology or the other. And you probably also agree with the political ideology of the main characters anyway, because it doesn't involve terrorism.
But, for example, there's that scene in the market where they try to stop the assassination and they have a shootout. And, the police actually show up pretty quick. Like, the tip-off could have worked. But through that whole scene, all I could think was CounterStrike.
It wasn't in Italy, though.
Yeah, it was.
Was it?
That part was.
I don't know. I forget. They were always basically, as far as I could remember, in generic European place.
Is this not the market from CounterStrike?
It is. But I mean,
But no, this is a great little comic, and I don't know how easy it is to get, but I found it on Amazon with one review, so.
All right. It is theoretically obtainable.
And we're rapidly...
If you can't obtain it, go to Zombocom, where the unattainable is attainable.
So there's probably only about a week's more worth of Geeknights episodes before who knows what the fuck's gonna happen between me going back to Turkey and Scott going to where DC and all of us going to Seattle.
Let me look
and
at-
I might have to go to Munich again and maybe Frankfurt.
Okay,
maybe Warsaw.
Yes, Rim is about right. This is going to be pretty much next week. There will be, I guess, Tuesday, Thursday episodes.
Now, several of you...
And then after that, who knows?
I've gotten some responses already on people who want to do guest episodes. So by this weekend, I will get to all of you who have asked a care package of everything you will need to make
A
an
digital
entire
care package.
episode of Geeknights. You'll get our sound clips. No, these sound clips will not tell you what the songs are. You still have to figure those out, except our opening theme, which is Booster Tarantino, used with permission.
Mm-hmm. The other songs aren't used with permission.
No, they're totally not.
But don't tell anyone.
Fair use is what I will argue to the grave.
The grave was where you end up when you're homeless and they see.
I hope I don't look like any of the characters in this comic when I'm that old.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Also, Atomic Trivia War 9000 is recording tomorrow with me again.
Oh shit!
But then I guess it's gonna air a week later or a week after that. Who knows?
I don't know when they air. I was on one a long time ago, but I forgot about it after I
I've
recorded
been
it.
on 2, so this will be number 3. Also, somebody put together a nice like stats thing of like who's been the best, and on many, even only having been on 2 episodes, I am, among the greatest trivia-ers.
I wish it was more quiz bowly though, because I gotta say, when I was on, I knew a lot of the answers to other people's baby questions.
Yeah, pretty much what it comes down to for me is if it is a topic that's like something I do not know, like Star Trek questions, yeah, I'm going to fail this big time, right? Because I don't know Star Trek. But if it's something I know, watch out.
Okay, CounterStrike time. This has been Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music, Kat Lee for web design, and Brando K for the logos.
Be sure to visit our website at frontrowcrew.com for show notes, discussion, news, and more.
Remember, Geeknights is not 1, but 4 different shows. Sci-Tech Mondays, Gaming Tuesdays, Anime Comic Wednesdays, and Indiscriminate Thursdays.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.